Hello, good evening here in the sunny valley. We've got a nice spring day, but it's a bit cold. So anyway, my name's William McAllister. I'm chairperson of the steering group of the Still Game Valley campaign, and we're trying to fight with green belt land, brown belt land to get actual social housing built and have the community at the heart of this process. The objective is to make the community aware of what's actually going on and under their very noses, as the council have not informed anyone, have not consulted with anyone. Lack of communication and consultation from the council, and they have decided in their wisdom to actually just sell off the land, which they've been doing for many decades now. The Bothy just across the road from us was a classic example how they consulted, knocked down over 1,000 houses, displaced over 1,000 and odd people, and said they were going to regenerate and rebuild their community. They get 20 social houses out of it. The rest is all private. The community has been destroyed and decimated, and we cannot allow this to happen in the Valley area. Yeah, my own history is I've been a community activist in this area for about 40 years, and this struggle hasn't just started. This struggle has been going on for hundreds of years, because it's them and us. And I hate to say that, and I hate to make that comparison, like, but that's a fact of life. For my own community activism side of it, I remember we had problems with the old housing up here in the Valley area, and it was about dampness, condensation, whatever you want to call it, but it was a main issue for houses of this type, pre-war sort of housing, where there wasn't proper insulation, there wasn't proper heating, no double glazing windows and all that. And I remember we started a campaign then because we had enough, because of our children suffering from asthma, bronchial diseases, and it was never ever addressed by Glasgow City Council or any housing providers. I remember Donald Dewar stayed in Cleveland and he was the First Minister, and I remember approaching him and asked them to come to our community to see how people were living, and the rebuttal, the doors get closed, nobody was answering the telephone. So we decided to march on Mr. Dewar's residence, you know, at the top of the hill. I felt going back to the medieval days. I was waiting on Donald throwing me a carrot or a tumsy, and people will know what a tumsy is. It came from the valley, because we used to go up and have to get bags of them to feed our children. But anyway, MI5 came and sort of, one asked me nicely, and because I says no, because I was protesting peacefully and I was waiting on Donald coming back from the Scottish Parliament, because I wanted to have a word with him, and I was sick and tired of trying through the normal channels. So we took it upon ourselves. We're only 500 yards away. We don't need taxis, we don't need buses, and we don't need to drive. We shall walk up the hill to the castle of Donald Dewar. And lo and behold, somebody noticed there was something untoward, because we were in his garden. And then, you know, the forces that be, the police, MI5 and all the rest of them, came to appeal to us, but we did not cave in. We stood our ground, and eventually there was a visit, and there was eventually that year to the next 2 years a couple of £1 million put into the area to eradicate dampness. And that's what you've got to do, because if you don't fight, they don't come, they don't tell you nicely, and they don't say to you, there you go my son. As my father said once, it's better to die standing up and on your knees, my son. Nobody's any better than you, and you're no any better than anybody else. So continue the fight and champion the people's justice, and that's what we're doing here today. Because people, my children's children and their children have the right to decent housing. It's a basic fundamental right, and these people who think they know better don't know better. They didn't even know where the valley was until a couple of weeks ago when we went on video and told them, G20, come and see us and talk to us. And now they're going to be doing that, and hopefully the result will be with the people of the Valley and other areas in Glasgow, working class areas, getting treated the same as all other people in society. So that's where I'm coming from at the moment, as a person that stayed here all his life, his family before him, father, grandfather, grandmother. We cannot allow this to turn into the same as the Bothy. We have to fight and get up and start the struggle to actually get social housing. Social housing is very important, because I don't know if you remember, but back in the 1990s and the 2000s, we had a thing called Defend Council Housing. I was the chair of it, and we were fighting then to save council houses. We had 185,000 houses in this city, the largest in Europe. Yes, there was problems. Yes, there were other issues with it, but it was bad management, politicians who didn't care and had lost their way and decided, let's do a bailout and give it to the private developers. We need social housing. Our children deserve better. Going back to the Rackman days will not help the situation in this city for people who can't afford the so-called affordable housing. Affordable housing in whose eyes? The little guy that works, or the little girl that works in McDonald's, the person who has a call centre job, no disrespect, or the person that's on zero contract. They cannot get a mortgage. And for a house of £200,000 to start, that's not going to help the housing problem. We need social housing, the real affordable housing, decent housing, housing that is going to survive a 10, 15, 20 year, and don't let the private landlords go back to the Rackman days of giving substandard housing, uninhabitable housing, not doing any repairs and not maintaining their houses, but taking vast profits to fill their own pockets. Yeah, and moving on from that, from the community activism, I ended up getting into politics. I never really was interested in politics. Just, the community activism was in my blood and what I was brought up with. And eventually I became deputy leader. I think I was the longest serving deputy leader in SNP history in Glasgow. And I remember Alex Salmond and Nicholas Sturgeon saying to me at the time when I won my election, a by-election, my landslide victory, took it off Labour, a safe seat for all those years. And I remember that well. I remember it as if it was yesterday. And I remember saying to them, or them saying to me, oh, this is a new movement, this is a new time, a new era. We will be open, transparent and accountable. Well, I've got to ask you, Nicola. I've got to ask all you SNP Glasgow councillors, Kenny McLean in particular, what happened to those three things? We've got a right to remain here and not be shoved off the land because profit comes before people. It's the other way about, Nicola, that we, the people, come first, and then if people want to make profit out of something, it's not to the detriment of the people of these communities. And I would urge you and your housing minister to step in here and investigate Glasgow City Council and the brown envelopes, because something is not right here. They can't produce the documentation that tells you there was consultation. They can't provide the meeting that was done at. They can't provide minutes. So where's the openness and transparency and accountability? And yet they're telling us we've got to accept that because it's the best way forward. Nothing to do with the views, nothing to do with the greenery, nothing to do with the River Kelvin run below you and the canal running above you, nothing to do with it's 10 minutes walk to the West End. My backside. This is what it's all about. Grabbing land, selling it off to the highest bidder. It's shocking, it's shameful in this day and age that private developers can overrun and overrule people in their own communities. We will not accept that. We will stand up, we will be counted, and we'll be accountable, we'll be transparent, and we will fight to the death, because this is not going to happen in this area. We will not go away and we shall win this campaign.